It's very unfortunate but true that Google Ads has started to fall apart. And I wish that was a clickbait title, but unfortunately I say this with a very heavy heart. It's not. But here's the thing, it's not exactly falling apart in the way that you might think it's falling apart. Now, what do I mean by this exactly? Before we actually dive into exactly how Google Ads is falling apart and what I exactly mean, it's important to understand that actually every single advertising platform, no matter what it is, has to go through this falling apart phase at some point in its time. Now, this already happened with Facebook ads, because with Facebook, if you just think 3-4 years ago, it was extremely easy to get results, that too quick results and consistent and profitable results. But what exactly started to happen 2 and 3 years ago, as more and more drop shippers or just e-commerce store owners in general, and also other advertisers started to use the platform more and more, they started to spend more money on that platform, things became a little bit hectic. Obviously, this started to happen because of the increased competition, and there was only limited ad space on the ad platform itself, hence why you started to pay much more every single link click that you got. But things didn't just stop there. With continuous changes with Facebook's ad policies, there were account suspensions that started to come into play, and a lot of advertisers, whether they're real businesses or just fake ones running from their mom's garage or something, they also started to get impacted negatively. And I mean, that was basically the worst year around 2 years ago, which was the worst year for about 95% of e-commerce store owners running Facebook ads. And I would even say Facebook ads during that time period was when it started to basically fall apart. Now, obviously, we know what happened after Facebook basically started to crumble down. Mark Zuckerberg, our guru and mentor, had to go through these lawsuits, and there were just so many issues with conversion tracking ever since that time period that I can almost say 20 to 30% of advertisers, including myself, completely left Facebook ads for good. But here is now where Google Ads comes into play. So those advertisers that completely left Facebook, they really had only one option to go with if they wanted to continue running their e-commerce business, and that is to use another advertising platform to continue getting sales. Or of course, they also had a second option, the not so common option, which was to just completely scrap everything and go out and get a job or something. Those were only the two major options. Majority of the e-commerce store owners ended up picking that first option. But when it comes to choosing a specific advertising platform, I would say about 90% of those 20 to 30% of folks, of e-commerce store owners that ended up leaving Facebook, actually came over to Google. And this, unfortunately, is when Google's demise started to happen, because as people ran over to Google Ads about 1 to 2 years ago, Google Ads itself started to face this huge surge in overall advertising spend and overall advertising expenses. I mean, about 2 or 3 years ago, I could just launch one given campaign or two given campaigns at a decent amount of budget and not touch it for 1 to 2 weeks, only to come back and find out that I had actually made more money than the time period before. However, if you do that now, just make sure you have a spot marked out near the dumpster for when you go homeless, because that's essentially what is starting to happen with Google Ads, with e-commerce specifically. Now, what am I talking about exactly? Because all of these folks came from Facebook, and just there was this interesting new demand for Google Ads in general, maybe because of my YouTube videos or just in general for whatever reason, more and more advertisers started coming out to Google. That means Google had to up its game and also find ways to make more money, which means Google Ads ended up having to make their policies much more stricter. Now, I know that kind of seems counterintuitive, that if Google Ads itself wants to make more money, shouldn't they really just release the policies and make them easier so more and more advertisers can come on the platform and actually sell? Well, the thing is with that, Google's customer base, which is our customers as well, the people that shop with us, those are Google's main priority, which means if those customers don't go on Google to shop anymore, then ultimately Google is going to suffer. So that's why Google started introducing these policies to only let the best type of advertisers stay in the market. And that means about 20, 30, 40% of the e-commerce store owners that decided to come on to Google to then increase their overall revenue, increase their profits, they too started facing issues with these policies. They started facing account suspension after account suspension. And this is also where Google Ads basically started to fall apart for e-commerce brands. Now, doesn't generally mean that Google Ads itself as a platform started to fall apart, because at the end of the day, what Google was doing was it was filtering the bad e-commerce brands with the good e-commerce brands. And Google knows the good e-commerce brand will do whatever possible to make sure Google's customer, which is the customer that shops with us, stays on google.com for as long as possible. They have a good experience, they come back on Google to shop again, and so on and so forth. Google wants only those e-commerce store owners that abide by this criteria. So this means more and more e-commerce store owners, even if those that just signed up for a merchant center account came on with and were real brands trying to provide real good customer service, even they were under Google's bad radar. And I've seen this happen way too many times, not only for my own e-commerce brands, but also for my clients' e-commerce brands under my Google Ads agency, Euro Marketing, which if you're currently doing $30,000 or more per month in revenue, you need just a little bit of extra help scaling to the next level. Go onto my website at euromarketing.com and book a free call with me to see how we can possibly work together and make that happen. But in general, every single ad account, despite if it was for a real brand, not for a real brand, basically started to get suspended at some point. This is really when Google took a turn downwards. Now, of course, this was done mostly to deal with those scammy websites, because there has been an uptick in scammy websites ever since this large population came from Facebook and even TikTok onto Google Ads. So this is where really Google Ads started to fall apart, in the sense that the algorithm was not able to necessarily know what was a good website versus what was a bad website. And this is where things like website layout, the overall policies you have, and all of the stuff like that really made a big impact, whether you would end up getting your Merchant Center account or your Google Ads account suspended or not. And in addition, if these problems weren't enough, the main straw that broke the camel's back was when customers also started to become aware of these bad websites, these scammy websites, of these so-called dropshippers who were making their customers wait for too long periods of time. And this is when customers actually started to do more and more research. So believe it or not, customers, along with Google's algorithm, have been becoming smarter over this period of time. This means they have been starting to compare prices more and more often. They've been doing a bit more research with the description, with the product, with the brand itself before actually buying. And this was really a change of scenery, because before it was much easier for a customer just to see the ad one time and convert. And again, that was a time period when customers themselves used to trust these websites much more. But unfortunately, that is no longer the case. So even now, customers take a bit of a longer time to convert. And with the recession basically above our heads, it becomes even more necessary for any potential customer to do their due diligence before just randomly giving their money to a website they just saw online. So essentially, these things just kind of came crumbling together to make this massive impact on Google, and as a result, start turning Google's momentum, start turning Google's profitability phase over upside down and towards the roller coaster ride downward. So this is essentially what is happening with Google. Now, what does this mean for us exactly as e-commerce store owners? So even though Google Ads is falling apart on multiple different sides and angles, unfortunately, that does not mean that is the end of the game for us. What that simply means is the following. So in regards to the first topic of the competition increasing, obviously, if there's more people coming onto the advertising platform, we need to improve our ads even more. There has been no more important time than now to make sure our images are standing out of the crowd, our prices are the most competitive, we're doing proper search engine optimization techniques, we have our back end optimized with our feed, and all sorts of those things like that give us a rock solid foundation. Because the reality is, without a rock solid foundation in 2022, 2023 and onwards, your Google Ads account, and as a result, the entire ads platform and your scenario is just going to keep on crumbling downwards. It's going to keep on falling down. So you need to right now find ways to make your product stand out of the crowd from the rest of the individuals, so that you come out at the end profitable. Moving on to the second item which I talked about, which was Google becoming more strict with its policies. Obviously, if Google is becoming more strict, we need to become more smart when it comes to creating our policy pages, creating every single page on our website. Now, this doesn't matter if you're already finding a lot of success with Google, you're doing 30, 50, 100K a month or more. You still need to be on top of the game. Make sure you have all of the necessary policies at all times, and also be aware of Google Ads updates, because at any given time, Google Ads might add another policy page that it wants you to add to your website, and next thing you know, you get suspended because you don't have that on your website. So you need to step up your game and make sure every single website follows by Google's policies. Every single product is the right kind of product that is not prohibited by Google Ads, and that is really the only way to make sure not only do you not get suspended, but you stay unsuspended for the longer term. But in addition, the third thing that I said was scammy websites and Google becoming more aware of these websites. So the main solution behind this is you need to invest in a properly optimized theme, period. No more of those free Shopify themes, because like you, a million other Shopify merchants have access to those themes. So even if you think that you did the best job possible with that theme of yours, you still have a very good chance of getting suspended just because of Google's algorithm and the fact that it's not a real person, just some Indian guy from India sitting behind a computer with glasses just looking through your website from left to right, top to bottom. It's an algorithm that works in the back end, and that algorithm sometimes is not too smart. It kind of uses these keywords, these triggers, to determine if you're a scammy website or not. And a lot of the times it's actually wrong. Ask me how I know, because I got suspended a bunch of times with a lot of the accounts I have been opening up. So even people like me get suspended. So we need to find ways to adapt. We need to make our websites better. And what I've noticed is having a professional theme that's properly laid out is the way to go in 2022, 2023 and onwards. But in addition, with the last point I said, which is customers taking a longer period of time to convert, I mean, that's really expected now, because with the recession above us, people want to save more money. Customers are not dumb. They know that they need to save money because the future is unknown. So in a situation like that, obviously they're not going to be too inclined to just do whatever and just purchase the first thing they see just because they're lazy to do more research. So you'll find that more and more people, more and more customers are doing more research, trying to find out about the product, trying to find better prices and all sorts of stuff like that. So what you need to do is not start price wars, but make sure your back end is optimized, your product image, your product overall layout is optimized, so that when a customer goes on your website, despite a recession, despite them not having enough money, they are inclined to buy from you. That's the main goal that you should have in 2022 and 2023 and onwards. But if you do all of these things right, I can guarantee you Google Ads will be not falling apart for you, but it will be falling apart around you for all of those e-commerce store owners who fail to do any of these things, who continue doing what used to work in the past, hoping it works. But if you want to be full on sure that you are not going to fail with Google Ads, your e-commerce brand continues to increase in sales, profits, etc., especially if you're doing already $30,000 or more per month in revenue, go onto my website at yourmarketing.com and book a free call with me to see how we can work together and make that happen. But if you found any type of value in this video, destroy that like button, destroy that subscribe button, and I will see you in my next video.